And welcome to the Not So Late Show. I'm your host, Brendan Love. It's been a while since I've done this, and oh no, they changed the format, so I couldn't find the little intro video thing, but I'm going to do it anyway because I've just found it. They just moved it. So hang on, here we go. Intro. And welcome to season 3 of the Not So Late Show. Today, our guest will be... Hey, stop scrolling your life away and stick around for a while on the Not So Late Show with your host, Brendan Love. All right, there we go. I found out how to use it. It was just in a different place. Hello from Canada. Hello from Texas. Greetings, everybody. Greetings from Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Wow. Hello from Fort Worth, Texas, Brisbane, Australia. Boy, everyone's tuning in. Hey, did that video work? Could everyone hear that? Because last time I played my little teasers, the audio wasn't working. So let me know if that's working. Watching from the UK. I think it's 1 a.m. there, isn't it? So thank you for staying up. South Dakota, Alabama, Ohio, Holland. Hey, quick word, Holland, or the Netherlands in general. I was lucky enough to receive some stroopwafel from a very, very lovely fan, Bianca. She sent, I think, 4 packets of stroopwafels, and they barely lasted for the rest of the day. So, apparently it worked. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know, Nathan. Okay, cool. Well, new time, 12 p.m. Australian. New for the Not So Late Show. Very not so late. Reason being, today's guest will be joining us from Nova Scotia in Canada. I think it's 8 p.m. there. And this week's guest will be none other than Bahamas. So let's get into it because I can see him requesting to join. But a little intro first. See, I even got the blue cards back. It's all happening here at the Not So Late Show. So here we go. The Bahamas, known officially as Afie Jurvanen, is a country within the Lucayan archipelago of the West Indies in the Atlantic. It takes up 97% of the Lucayan archipelago's landmass and is home to 88% of the archipelago's population. Fascinating. No, that's just a little joke there. For everyone playing along, that's just silly. No, but okay, so Bahamas is the intimate, lyrically wry solo project of Canadian guitarist and singer-songwriter Afie Jurvanen. I can't pronounce that, I'll ask him how to say it. Having honed his skills working alongside artsy roots luminaries such as Feist and Jay in the mid-2000s, Afie garnered widespread critical acclaim with his release Pink Strat in 2009. Since then, Afie has released 5 studio albums, received all kinds of accolades. I think it's a Juno Award, lots of those in Canada. His latest release being Sad Hunk, and his career obviously reached its apex when Afie collaborated with Australian band the Teskey brothers as part of his Live to Tape series, promoting his latest album. Oh, there we go.
What's happening, brother?
Oh, not a lot. How you going, mate?
Good. It's all frozen up. Hopefully it comes back on here.
Well, I mean, it's quite fitting because I was expecting to see you on a frozen lake fishing, but got to say, I'm a little disappointed.
Last weekend I was ice fishing, but no, just at home tonight. Just another Saturday night at home.
Yep. Well, there you go.
A year of Saturday nights at home. Oh, absolutely. Hey? This is pretty late for me.
Well, it is the Not So Late Show, so there you go. Did you say, what do I do with my Saturday nights at home?
No, I said it's been a year of Saturday nights at home for me.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, so silly.
And I'm not complaining. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing too. You know, when somebody goes like, oh, what are you doing this week? Or like, what are you doing this weekend? And even when there's not a pandemic, as a musician, you're just like, brother, every day's a weekend for me, you know?
Yeah, every day is a Saturday night. No, this is fun. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I also really appreciate, because I know you don't even have Instagram on your phone, so I appreciate you actually downloading it.
I had to download it today. Robbie kind of explained how to do that. I know it's kind of confusing, just because we make so much stuff for Instagram, but it's just kind of what works good for me. And I'm lucky that I have, Robbie and Jason and some of the other guys that we work with that help make the videos and sort of get them out there to people. And it makes, then all I have to do is sort of make it, you know, I don't have to really like manage it, which is the part that kind of stresses me out. So I'm grateful to have those guys to do all that.
I got to say, your Instagram the last 6 months has just, boy, that is some good content. I actually got upset when I started looking at it. Like I got, you see a really good band, or like you go see your friend's band play, and part of you is like really excited and proud, but the other part of you is like really angry because they're really.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm flattered. Thank you. I mean, truth be told, I work pretty damn hard at it. It's I think people have no idea how much work it takes to make 1 minute of interesting video that's actually worth paying attention to. You know, when you consider just how much stuff is there, you know, the volume of stuff that people are sort of trying to get through every day. You know, I just sort of realized at some point it's like a vehicle to make more art. It's you know, I can just, like you're doing with this show. It's just like once you kind of figure out your own way into it, suddenly it just becomes a tool that you can use to make more cool stuff, you know. And the truth is, like everybody knows, I can't go out and play shows, so I'm grateful to have this other sort of outlet, and so this, and you know, making this little YouTube show, Tone Tools, has been so fun. I don't know that it's changing the world or going to land me any sort of Netflix deals or anything, but yeah, it's just I just enjoy it, you know. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, that's what I'm in this for, really.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to land a Netflix deal. I'm actually going to pitch a Tone Tools Not So Late Show collaboration.
Really? Well, geez.
Well, I mean, how could they say no? I mean, I like that you're seeing the positive side of it too, as far as the kind of like, finally, I mean, it took us a while to let go of the reins and kind of go, okay, this is part of the whole package of what it is to play music and present something as, dare I say, a product. You know, like it's all just part of what it, like Spotify, social media, it's just part of the whole, it's the whole thing now. So, I mean, it took us a while to get into it as well. But, I mean, realistically, I'm just doing this because I'm lonely, though. This isn't about marketing or anything. Like, this is just an excuse for me to talk to people that I, you know, I really, really like. Well, because I think we played it a little too cool. So basically, for anyone tuning in, this whole thing came about because Afie released a new album, Sad Hunk, which is awesome. And I have no idea.
I wonder if I have a copy over here to hold up on the thing, you know. But
if I was a more organized and professional, you know, late show host, I would have it, but I don't. You know, I also I don't live near a record store, so you know, like it's rare for me to leave a 5-kilometer radius of my house.
It's rare for me to buy a record. I mean, let alone be near a record store. But I hear you, brother. I hear you. Anyway, so as you were saying, we met because
so basically, Afie released a new album, Sad Hunk. Awesome album.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Working on a new one. It's called Iron Chic, CHIC, and it's going to be huge.
See, this is the thing with you, right? You know, like Australians have this reputation of like dry, sarcastic humor. And then I met you, and I was like, it was like a two black holes circling of like sardonic and like dry humor, and I just can't really tell if it's ever serious or not. Like even when this came up, us collaborating, I was like, I just don't know if this is like actually going to happen or if this is just more of a kind of funny social media thing. But
well, you know, a lot of people have for a long time, they've said 2 wrongs don't make a right, and I think you and I should really work hard to try and prove that theory wrong. You know, I think if we just both lay into it as hard as we can, we might actually cure COVID right here, right tonight, you know?
Yeah, we might actually come out the other side. Yeah.
That's right.
Before we get into this, right, though, I want to go way back because I was researching you, and I mean, I did a Wikipedia thing. I did a bit of a like, you know, the Brushfire bio, but there wasn't. I didn't dig deep enough to get the answers I wanted. So let me just
start
here.
Set the record straight.
Yeah, let me just start. Yeah. He is not from Bahamas, everybody. Okay, let me just start here. Quote: "Won't hold my breath, won't wait in vain, won't single you out, won't lay blame. I won't protest, but I won't stay the same, because I'm the only one who has my weird weird name. Now, what kind of schoolyard bullying went on with a name like Afie?
I'll be honest, it was pretty rough. Yeah, I was like kind of bigger too when I was a kid, so it was back then bullying was allowed, modern parenting it wasn't what it is now. So yeah, definitely that part of it was rough, and I certainly got picked on. I went to school with a lot of Jasons, a lot of Scotts, a lot of Mikes. Afie was weird. It is weird by any measure. It still is by North American standards, But I mean, the saving grace was just finding music, because music sort of gave me a lot of confidence. Like right away, I kind of knew that I was kind of good at it, and I could perform, and I could, it built my confidence, did a lot for building my confidence when I was like 12, 13. And just so that I could walk into a room and say, yeah, I'm Afie, hi, how are you? And introduce myself and hold my own at sort of a tender age. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that song might be drawing back to that place. I've never tried to tie that together, but you might be onto something there. But now, of course, I have a lot of pride. When I was younger, I begged my mother to be Kevin. I begged her, Mom, please let me change my name to Kevin. In my mind,
Yeah.
Kevin was the most boring, ordinary name I could think of. And she said, okay, well, when you turn 18, if you still feel that way, by all means. And of course, by that time, I didn't care anymore, and I was quite happy and proud to be Afie.
Yeah. I'm not sure
Yeah.
the third album would have the same ring. Bahamas is Kevin.
Bahamas is Kevin. Believe me, that joke has been made before, and I agree. I don't think it would make much sense. Although, that being said, I'll tell you a funny story about that album, which in a weird way was a sort of this strange ego-driven reaction to set this record straight. Because for my first two records, people didn't really get it. They're like, wait a second, like, you're Bahamas? Like, it's not a band, but is it a band? Or but you say your name's Afie, and it was like, it seemed to be confusing to everyone, or at least to the small circle of people that I interacted with. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to call this album Bahamas is Afie. It would take any ambiguity right out of it. And then I would be doing interviews with people, phoners or on tour, and do interviews, and an interviewer would be like, so, Alfie, why did you call your album Bahamas is Afie? And like it didn't have the effect that I intended it to have. I think it just like was just completely lost on most people, so, which of course now I'm totally fine with. In the moment, I was just kind of like, man, I screwed up. I could have just went with Iron Chic right back then. But anyway, it's a weird name. It's a weird name, and I'm proud to have it. And like most names, I didn't choose it. Someone else gave it to me, and that person only had the best intentions. So I have to own it with pride, and I hope everyone feels that way about the name they were given.
Well, there's actually there's a lot of questions coming in. Actually, don't be afraid to ask questions, everyone, because I can read these if I lean
please.
in. But Livid Design was asking, were you named after someone, or did your parents create your name? Is it a Finnish thing?
No, my mother told me that she heard that name in a movie once. I think it was a very old movie, but that's kind of all she told me about it. It's not a Finnish name. But yeah, my brother and sister, we all kind of have sort of strange names, and yeah, I mean, it's good training. It's good training just to having to like explain yourself. I still have to explain myself. Hell, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, well, it's good
Yeah,
talk show banter. I bet
yeah,
half of your
exactly.
career has. I'm going to guess that half of your career in interviews is spent explaining that you're not from Bahamas.
Between Bahamas and Afie, that's like 85% of the interview. Still, 5 albums in, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I've just accepted it at this point, and I'm happy to talk about it, and I'm trying to find new and interesting ways to sort of elaborate on this subject as time goes
Well,
on.
thank you
Yeah.
for indulging me and my
Yeah, of
lack of
course.
research to
No, no.
get interesting questions. It's not Studio Q here. All right, let's just let's not get too excited.
Oh.
There's a lot of people asking about Barrie. Is that what's Barrie?
Barrie is a place where I grew up. I was very young there, and when I grew up there, it was you know, a really charming small town, and it had pizza parlors and Sam the Record Man and arcades and bookstores, and we used to ride our bikes and go, you know, from Allendale to Letitia Heights and back again and go swimming, and I had a fishing rod and like it was an amazing place to be a kid. And then as soon as I became a teenager and kind of discovered art and music and stuff, suddenly it felt about this big. And I really quickly sort of gravitated towards the other weirdos, you know, the other artists who are guys that I still play with, you know, musicians that I moved to Toronto with, and Mike O'Brien, who played bass on my last record. I mean, that's someone that I've been hanging out with since I was 14, you know. But anyway, the town itself started to feel really, really small, and but my memories of it are just more of being of a younger kid, you know. You know, I went to high school there. I didn't graduate high school, but I certainly was there. My academic career was pretty less than stellar, and just, you know, played in early bands, played around town, and played at bars and stuff like that, and tried to open for other bands whenever they would come to town, like bands that were playing original music, you know. So Barrie is kind of like a town. I'm not sure what to equate it to in Australia, but it's sort of like it's basically an hour from Toronto. So when touring bands were coming through, they'd always want to play Toronto on like a Thursday, Friday, or a Saturday. So Barrie was always a place that bands would play on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, because you're basically killing time in sort of secondary markets before you can play Toronto, or, you know, the same thing you do when you're on tour. You know what I mean? So because of that, I got to open for a lot of really cool bands, like indie bands that I thought were rad, that were playing in Barrie, like on a Tuesday night to like 12 people. But I didn't care. I was just like psyched to see the band and meet these musicians. And I thought, wow, these guys are like on tour. This is a real band, you know? Anyway, so a lot of early formative experiences, and just sort of a lot of family memories and stuff like that, you know. But I moved away, you know, when I was fairly young, and so I haven't really spent much time there. Like my mother doesn't live there anymore, and my brother's sort of in and out of there. But yeah, I haven't really hung out there for so long, and I just assume that it's probably changed so much since I was there. You know, it's it's just grown like crazy from what I understand. But I'm sure they have a Walmart and all the same stuff that you know, Halifax has where I live now, whatever. But I'm sure it's a great town. I know there's great people still there.
Yeah, well, I mean, let us know in the comments, Barrie residents. What's it like? Is Sam the
Is there
man
Barrie
record
people in
store
there? How come I can't see the comments? Well, I'm not pro level Instagram, but I think I can figure this out. But anyway, Sam the Record Man is not still there. I know that because it burned down a long time ago, or it closed or something like that. But unfortunately, it's long gone, like most record stores.
I want to go from how does a young, chubby Finnish boy go from, you know, relative obscurity and, you know, not being in the popular groups to
mild obscurity?
Well, no, I mean, like playing on stage and then connecting with Feist and then Jack Johnson, obviously, with Brush Fire, like all of these things that, I mean, when I grew up, well, not when I grew up, but when I was learning guitar and stuff and fantasizing about a career in music, I was, I was doing my best Jack Johnson impersonation I could be, because that was the pinnacle of like guitar playing cool at that time. Yeah. And two, I had a huge crush on Feist. And then here I am reading these things about you, and I'm like, this son of a bitch.
Well, how may I ask how old you are? I'm not that much older than you. Are we kind of around the same age?
I'm 34. I think you're born in 81?
I'll be 40 pretty soon. Anyway, I'm kind of using my laptop as a light. I got my Gmail open behind my phone that's projecting light, and it just went dark. Anyway, I don't know how long this program is. Do you want the sort of long? Do you want the full story, or do you want it kind of? How would you like to have this package to you here?
Whatever's in your heart. I mean, we definitely have to finish before your 9 p.m. because obviously we're going to cut over to the YouTube premiere.
Okay, well, I'll get into it, and you just cut me off if it's getting boring. Basically, I had moved to Toronto.
Boring.
I had moved to Toronto with you know, with a bunch of guys that I played music with, and we played in bands, and there was other bands, and we were calling mixing, and we all moved to Toronto. A lot of those guys were going to university and art school and stuff like that. I had no plan. I had no education, no skills, no real nothing. I had saved up a few $100 and found an apartment, and I figured, okay, I have enough money to just float for like a couple of months while I look for a job, and I'll try and get my bearings and and so I was down at a bar. I can't remember if it was the Horseshoe or Tavern or some other bar, which I didn't know very many bars at that when I first moved there. But anyway, so we were down there, and I ran into a guy that I had gone to high school with. I told him I just moved to town, and I said I was looking for a job. And he said, "Well, come by tomorrow, and I'm working at this place, and I can hook you up." So I had lived there for a day, and I had found a job, which I was just like, "This is incredible. This is like I was over the moon, you know." Um, so I started working in this place, and it was a part-time job, so I had a whole lot of time to play music. And in those days, I was playing as Afie, believe it or not. I Before Bahamas, before I did anything else, I played shows just as my own name, and I would in those days I would literally like walk up to the clubs, drop off like a 8 by 10 sheet with like made up little facts about how great I was and different bands that I had opened for that like somehow that was relevant. And I had a little CDR that I had burned with like three or four little demos of my tunes on there. And I actually got a lot of gigs. And I basically because I didn't discriminate, I would play it everywhere, coffee shops and bars and all kinds of places. And but pretty quickly I kind of realized that like my songs weren't really strong enough to compete in the marketplace. Like I saw like really great original music. You know, it's a big city. There's artists. There's amazing musicians everywhere. And I guess I was kind of self-aware enough to know that the songs I was writing at the time just weren't they weren't cutting it. Like lyrically, they were kind of weak. And you know, I think my intentions maybe just I was like looking for a way to kind of get noticed as opposed to just like looking for a way to like make really good music. And, maybe we can get into that portion later. But anyway, at the time, I was savvy enough to know that the tunes were strong enough. So I started thinking of other ways to, what could I do with the music? And I had a band at the time, and we had made some recordings. But again, we were kind of like a band that opened for other bands. And great musicians, but the songs weren't necessarily developed again to the point where I think they need to be. But in any case, I mentioned this to a friend of mine who ran a really cool record label called Three Gut Records, and I said, I play guitar. If there was ever an opportunity that somebody needed a guitar player, maybe I could do that. I'm pretty good at it, and I don't know how you get a job like that, but I'm just putting it out there. And same thing, like the phone rang the next day. She had kind of called around, and this guy Howie Beck called me, and I started playing with him, and we toured. I got to go to New York City. I went to Manhattan, and we opened for this woman Sarah Harmer, who over here is just she's a big deal in Canada, and I'm sure elsewhere in the world too. But in any case, she's an incredible writer and great singer, and so I got to open for her, and I just thought I'm in New York City and I'm opening for Sarah Harmer and I'm playing with these cool musicians, and I just thought I'd made it. And and that was kind of it. I mean, that was the start of my sort of professional career, really. I mean, from there I went to play with Jay Collette with my band, the band that I had at the time. We became his backing band. And with him, we toured. We went to Japan and we went to all over Europe, and we went through the States and obviously Canada many times. And we opened up for Lucinda Williams and Rogue Wave and, cool bands that were around for like one album and then broke up, and Calexico. And like, I got a lot of experience, really formative experiences in that, playing with him and traveling with those guys. And then we did a tour where we opened for Feist. And, maybe the first couple nights she might ask me to come out and play on one song, and then the next night 2 songs and 3 songs. And by the end of the tour, we were kind of just like the band had cross-pollinated, and I was sitting in on like this huge chunk of the set, if not the whole thing. And and so she asked me to join the band. And for a long time, I tried to do both. When I say long time, I mean like, I don't know, 4 months or 6 months or something. But Jay was really busy at that time too, so I tried to do both things. And I can't say I did a good job of managing that. I think it was unreasonable for me to think that I could, but I wasn't. I was young and stupid. I wasn't smart enough to realize that, wow, like I'm about to like leave my friends and go on tour with Feist, Whereas Jay, who was a lot older than I am, he saw it and sort of called me on it, which I'm grateful for. It was awkward at the time because I didn't have the stones to just like own up to it. But he said, listen, you got to decide what you're doing here, because you're kind of leaving the rest of us hanging if you just like, because I was flying all over the place. Like she was playing in LA, and then I would fly halfway across the country to play, a week with him and then fly back to whatever she was doing. It wasn't a sustainable thing. In any case, all that to say, I'm not doing a very good job of telling the story, and I'm flattered that anyone is even remotely interested in this. But anyway,
Well,
all that to say is
I,
I got to be part of her band when she had the Reminder album, and I got to play on that album, which I'm proud of, and be a small little cog in that wheel. And but playing with Feist, I got to tour all around the world and play on Saturday Night Live and play on the Grammys and have all these really high pressure experiences where you really kind of, I mean, all the cheesy sayings, whatever, forged in the fire and all that kind of stuff. It's like there's certain things that you can learn from reading a book, or you could learn from, going to university. And then there's other things that you just have to learn by doing them. And I'm just so fortunate and grateful that I had the opportunity to experience those things and learn those things when I was in my mid-20s. And, it gave me a lot of things to draw from when I started to play my own music, because I had kind of been on the other side of it. And so when I started to play my own music, I kind of had an opportunity to say, well, shit, now it's my turn to do it. How do I want to do it, But anyway, I have nothing but really, really fond memories of that. And she was nothing but generous. And my first 2 albums were recorded at her country house, and really just so supportive of my career in the early days. And that's how I met Robbie. Robbie's worked with Feist for a long time, and that's Robbie and I were on the road together back when Robbie used to tour before he was Mr. Hollywood. He used to
it
go on the
happens.
road. It happens, I know, but we used to be just so tight on the road. I mean, some of my we just to stay up, just cracking jokes so late, like no booze required. I mean, we were just you know what I mean? It's like musicians to me are just some of the funniest people. Like you just spend so much energy trying to make each other laugh. And that's such a fun part of being on the road. Still is. I still love that. It's like there's still so many people in my band and crew that kind of have that spirit. And that's kind of what you need, I think, if you're going to be on the road together for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Um, but anyway, I mean, that's kind of, meeting Robbie through that has been obviously kind of the biggest um, life changer of a relationship for me. I mean, we've been just tight, thick as thieves since then, and everything I've done since then Robbie's just been a huge part of that. So yeah, that kind of brings me right up to when that tour finished, and I kind of realized that she was gonna work with other musicians and make another album and do something else. I mean, to my mind, I was like, well, geez, I just spent 3 years like playing in the best band, playing the best music, getting paid well and traveling and playing great venues. I'm like, it's not like I'm just gonna, it just didn't seem right to go and like play with some other artist at that point. I was like, this is the time to, record my own tunes and step it up to that level. And again, Robbie was just super encouraging, and he had all the microphones and the equipment and really facilitated a lot of my early recordings. because I just, I don't know anything about that stuff. So, um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's interesting, but that's sort of the long, short answer.
No,
With,
it's
very few, there's gory details in there, but you know, I'll spare myself and your audience all the stuff and just say everything was rosy. There was never any challenges, and it's only ever been very, very easy for me. I've never had any struggles at all.
and Feist is really keen to meet you, Brendan. Awesome. There's a lot of people asking who Robbie is. Robbie is Afie's manager, but also what, producer or engineer? Like he kind of,
Absolutely. He
yeah.
does it all. Yeah. So he's been my producer. Um, in some cases, we sort of credit it as co-producer, but I think that's just him being generous and including me. I mean, really, like, I try and show up with the songs as strong as they can be, and my musical ideas as strong as they can be. And, after that, I don't have an opinion. If he wants to use two mics on the drums, I might notice like 4 days into the session, oh wow, that's how you're micing the drum kit. But yeah, there's a level of sort of trust there that is so deep that it allows you to there's just not there's nothing held back, right? So we can share with each other. If he doesn't like something, he'll just come out and say it, and it might sting for a second, but I know he's saying what he feels. You know what I mean? He's saying the truth. And I'm lucky to have a few relationships like that in my life, and I hope that everyone has that. And especially if you're a creative person, like trying to make something. I mean, I certainly have lots of people who I know I could play them any recording, and they'd be like, "Yeah, it sounds great, nice one." But to have like one person, maybe two people that actually say, you can do better. The third verse is weak. Like that lyric is weak. Tighten that up. And just to have someone call you on it is awesome because you go, fuck, you're right. You're totally right. And if he didn't say it, I would have just let it slip. Like, so anyway, who's Robbie? Robbie is my producer, manager, and partner for all intents and purposes. And he runs my Instagram account. So if you're DMing with me, you're not DMing with me. You're talking to Robbie. Okay? And he's very
Um,
polite, and he won't go out of your way to make a big deal about it. He'll just, every once in a while, he'll forward me something and saying, "Hey, there's two people getting married, and they're wondering if you could sign a CD or something." And I'm sure he'd love it if I spent a little more energy replying to the DMs. But I think he seems to be able to work 24 hours a day. I don't know when he sleeps.
um, yeah, I guess that level of trust comes from all those years of drinking beers out of the bus driver's shoe. So that's good.
Yeah. The bus driver's shoe. Wow, is that, how do you know about that? Is that a thing?
Oh, I do my research, mate. I do my
Oh,
research.
wow. Jeez.
Um,
Wow. Well, you're going
uh,
back there. Pascal, he was a hell of a bus driver. You should see this guy. He had a trailer and he could back this. They got those narrow cobblestone
yeah, yeah,
streets
yeah.
like in the northern England and stuff. This guy could back a trailer into anything. I mean, people would come out from other venues from across town to watch this guy back the trailer, and it was just obscene. Anyway, it's true. I did drink beer out of his shoe.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I feel like the behind the scenes thing, like particularly the bus drivers and like TMs and stuff, people
Yeah.
really don't get an insight as to like what a hell of a job. I mean, we have the easy job, we work for an hour, hour and a half a day. Outside
Hmm.
of that, we're just being lonely and crying most of the time. But everyone else is working around us. And those bus
Oh,
drivers,
for
it's no
sure.
joke.
Well, especially in Europe, I don't know what the rules are like now, but in back in those days when I was touring there, the bus drivers would get a buyout if they chose not to stay in a hotel and to sleep on the bus. I think they made a little more money, maybe an extra 40 or 50 euros a day or something. And so most of them would, they would take that option. But the bus driver had its own sleeping berth. Like, when you first step on the bus, there's a couple steps to go up. So basically, in that little channel underneath the steps, there was like a little bunk for the driver. And it was so small. And I just couldn't believe that he slept in there every day. I mean, I mean, I guess we're all kind of sleeping in these little bunks or whatever, but it just was so weird to me. It's like this guy is sleeping under the under the stairs, basically, you know. But you know, Europe is at least we all eat together. That's kind of the great leveler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean, someone 88. Could you please shout out my band called The Phonic? Shout out
Phonic?
The Phonic.
Phonic, you guys are doing great, man. You're gonna have to work harder though, seriously.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to pick it up, you know?
Yeah.
Take it from me. Get up early in the morning and get to work, Phonic.
Right. I want to go from, I mean, I want to lead up to obviously Sad Hunk, you know, and this premiere that is happening in exactly.
Oh, we're gonna blow right through this premiere. Come on, man. This is way more interesting. I think people are tuning in. People are catching on.
But you know, premiere 9 p.m. Canadian time or Toronto time or whatever you call it, CET. I don't know. 1 p.m. Australian, whatever.
Man.
Yeah. It's in our bio. It's in our bio. If you're watching this and you want to see the Teskey brothers and Bahamas collaboration,
yes.
Click our bio in Instagram. It'll take you straight to the link. You'll be able to watch. You can comment along. I'll be on there commenting along, making sarcastic quips at Afie's expense. So tune in for that. But before then, I want to go from, so I was introduced to your music by our management team. My friend Al, who works with us now.
Yeah.
She initially came on as the band, like, I mean, we've been playing for like, I don't know, 20 years or something, and, you know, playing pubs with nothing happening.
Yeah.
And then suddenly stuff started happening, and I was freaking out because it was just more emails. I couldn't deal with it. I got into this business to not do emails. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, absolutely. Yeah.
So she came on and started taking care of that. And then I think it was like 2012, 2013, she gave me Barchords. I fell in love with it. Lost in the Light. Get out of here.
Yeah.
What a song.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah. And you know, and then Bahamas' Afie, Stronger Than That. What a tune, you know.
Thank you.
But then Earth Tones comes out. And there's a little shift, in my opinion. Not too drastic as I think some of the commentators would have said. There was clearly that DNA existed in Pink Strat, in my opinion. But then Earth Tones comes along, and there's a change in the band. There's a change in the sound, and I think there's almost a sort of a modernity injected into the lyrical content, almost like
yes.
Almost kind of like the way it's like a hip hop kind of sensibility is injected into the kind of specificity of the modern, you know, observational kind of content.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're reading it pretty accurately. I'm not sure if I could make it any finer point on that, but I mean, to be clear, I do like to sort of work with different musicians on all my albums. I've worked in different studios and different musicians, and some characters have sort of, you know, like Darcy, who you know, played on Pink Strat and Barchords, and then I don't think he played on Bahamas' Afie. Did he play on? I don't think he played on Earth. Did he play on Earth Tones? He played on a couple songs on Earth Tones and played beautifully, actually. But anyway, so, you know, people come in and out, and I'd always like to work with different people. It's sort of a way of keeping it fresh, and I do get excited about the thought of you know, meeting new people through music, and then seeing how they might play with someone that I played with before, and, you know, just the cocktail that is kind of like putting different people into a room and seeing what happens. But yeah, I think there was a kind of a step up, you know, at that point. I think just in my writing, you know, I had some children, and the way that I wrote songs completely changed in that period. I used to write songs with just sort of like play guitar for hours and hours and hours and hours every day in hopes of getting 20 minutes or 30 minutes of material that was worth pursuing. And it was like a volume proposition. And that worked pretty well for me. I mean, I got Lost in Light, and I got stronger than that, and I got all these albums, and that was a good, but then my life changed kind of overnight. My domestic life changed to the point where I just like, this just wasn't an option. But just since then, that's never been an option. So um, I sort of had some growing pains, sort of adjusting to that and being maybe frustrated a little bit that I didn't have access to that. And then something just clicked. I wrote this song called what the hell is it called now? Must be some truth in this. Boom,
Bow,
boom,
bow,
ba-do-da-da.
ba-da-da-da.
Yeah, no
Um,
expectations. Anyway,
I love that. Yeah.
my daughter was kind of, I was sitting on the couch exhausted, and she was sort of happy just playing between my legs. I had a guitar, I was kind of messing around, and the whole song just came like in a few minutes, almost just played it front to back. And I had this realization that wow, I don't need, 6 hours of guitar playing. I don't need to be in a studio. I don't need to be with a certain instrument. I just need to have my musical mind uh, ready and willing to work. And so the ideas started coming much quicker, and I started to try and make more of an effort to get to them. And sometimes you have 10 minutes, sometimes you have 5 minutes, sometimes it's just like a lyric while you're out for a walk, and you think that lyric is strong enough to be a whole song. So yeah, it was a turning point, sort of in my writing, and then also just sonically, I kind of like um, I sort of moved away from reverb in general, probably pretty noticeably. Um, I used to kind of like more ambient, more roomy sounds, definitely bar chords. Pink Strat were recorded live, the band all playing together, and like the kick drum is in the vocal mic, and it's all just mixed up and it sort of does create a space for the songs to live in, and I do think that's really cool. But I started listening to a lot of modern hip hop, a lot of Prince, a lot of like Curtis Mayfield, and just records that were still musicians playing and jamming and performing, but just sort of had more modern production techniques, and just really powerful. When things are isolated like that, like you can play like really small sounds and you can layer them up. You can do like 8 tracks of guitar, and it doesn't sound like a massive Def Leppard guitar sound. It just sounds cool and rhythmic and groovy, and almost you can't quite tell what's going on. And so I started to get more interested in things like that, which we certainly did a lot of that on Earth Tones. Recording with no amplifiers, just plugging right into the mixing console, and yeah, again, like just layering the tracks up, like sort of slower. Whereas before I would just want to play it all and okay, great, that's the take, we're done. Spending more time and actually like thinking, well, what makes most sense for this song, and yeah, and then lyrically, I mean, as you said, I think like singing about modernity, singing about the world we live in is hard. It's really hard to do that. And the guys that are doing hip hop kind of to my mind, seem to do the best job of that. They seem to be able to sing about the time that we're living in and make it fun and poetic and insightful and just like soul crushing in some instances. It's just amazing. I can't believe sometimes the way they put the words together. And I think, how the hell can I do that with an acoustic guitar? It's really
Yeah.
hard to do. It's really hard to do with
There's
guitar. I
just
don't know.
certain phrases and the phonetics of certain words that when you're strumming on a guitar, you just sort of go, ah, can I put that in? Like
I
sometimes
know.
I
I
write
know.
things for Josh to sing, and like when I'm doing it, I'm like, it sounds a certain way, and then Josh sings it, and it's like, I'm not sure that verisimilitude should belong in a song. I just don't think that's a
Yeah.
word that is really worthy of being in a song.
Yeah, I know. There's just certain words like algorithm or, like I don't know. There's just certain like a lot of stuff to do with technology, which obviously like so much of our life is kind of lived in such proximity. In fact, is just woven into the fabric of our life now. We should be able to sing about it. We should develop, a language and a sort of a facility to kind of like make art out of these things. but I don't know that like I've cracked the code yet. I'm trying gently. I gently sort of like poke at it a little bit.
I
Um,
see the DMs that they send me. I'm like, I see we
yeah,
did that. I see we did
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, Liam, our drummer, commented a while ago. He said, "Can I call in?" But I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we can do a three-way thing here. But you can certainly comment, Liam, and I'll ask Afie what you're thinking. But
Yeah.
also, I just know that Liam will kill me, and I will kill me if I don't ask about Pino and Steve Gadsden.
Sure. James Gadson.
Sorry, James Gadsden.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. So that, I mean, that was kind of an idea that Robbie had. Um, Obviously, I was a huge fan of both of those guys. And at the time, D'Angelo had just put out the Black Messiah record, which I was listening to exclusively. I was listening to nothing else, like just nonstop. I just thought, wow, this is a just yet another game changer, you know? I mean, like all of his recordings. But Pino was all over that, and James plays on a few tracks on that, and and um, and the two of them had worked together on some other sessions. I can't remember what it was, but in any case, neither one of them knew that they were going to be on the session. Like, we got in touch with Pino and he was into it, and we got in touch with James and he was into it, but they didn't know that either one. I mean, they were just going to show up, for the session like they would any other session. And they both just work with such a diverse variety of artists. I mean, Keith Urban and Nine Inch Nails and D'Angelo and John Mayer and everything in between, So I was excited, um, and I think James was there first, and then I showed up, and we kind of were meeting a little bit, and Pino was a little bit late. And when Pino walked in and saw James, like the two of them just hugged each other and embraced, and just right away I knew the vibe was like they were so excited to see each other, like you could just tell that they loved playing with each other. That I was like, okay, this was the right call, because like before we played a single note, there was just this level of like, wow, okay, cool, we're gonna make something cool. Like everybody just kind of perked up, and yeah, and then like I, I would show them the tune and I would play a little bit, but then I kind of quickly realized like it was just better if I sort of just sang and energy directed, sometimes just with my hands.
Yeah.
So most of that record was cut with just bass and drums and me singing vocal. And that's why Pino's playing, in a lot of cases, Pino's playing like the melody and the bass line at the same time, right? Show Me Naomi or something. Don't ba-doodle-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doodle-doo. Like he was like, "Are you sure I don't want to overplay?" I'm like, "Dude, just play as much as you want. Like it sounds rad. Like whatever you do, I'll just kind of fill in afterwards." And yeah, I mean, I would assume that anybody that works with those guys would say the same thing. I mean, it was just they made it so easy on me. It was so fun and so inspiring too, because in James's case, like he's almost twice my age, and he still has that attitude. He just wants to be involved in cool shit. He just wants to like make music, and that's all I want. And I just think like, man, if I'm 80 years old and some young guy is calling me to come play on the guitar on their album, like that's gonna feel so. That's all I want. Like that's so. I don't know. It's just everything. Just to be fresh and engaged and still want to be in it like that. And just a really funny and incredible guy. And since then we've played a little bit together and done some other things. Like whenever I'm in LA, try and hook up with those guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, and this is like getting to, this is where we enter the picture almost.
Yeah, yeah.
We should wrap this up soonish so that everyone can
Oh,
go
right.
watch the
Okay.
fruits of our labor and
Yeah,
collaboration. But
yeah.
I mean, obviously, me as a bass player, being able to play some of those Pino lines was just like, I
No,
wouldn't say
for
dream. I
sure.
wouldn't say dream come true. I would say the pressure was on big time, and I was freaking
Yeah,
out. But learning them was just so refreshing and nice, and
yeah,
just like I think the arrangements on that album I hadn't really delved into until I started learning them. And I just
Yeah,
went,
well,
man,
I mean, you did a great job with that first lick on Way with Words. Like that's a tough one. I don't, a lot of guys just can't even figure that. Like it's like a chord that slides up and then he hits the,
so
low note.
I'm going to tell you about that. I'm going to tell you about that, Effie. I
Okay.
watched several live videos of like covers of people doing it and different bass players doing it, and I was like, none of them are getting that smooth Pinot transition from the chord back
Right,
to the
right,
main line. And
right.
so I was like, I must, like you can't have such an important part of the song and
Yeah.
not have, you got to pay the Pinot respect. So I tried my best to at least get it smooth
Oh
sounding in the
no,
transition between the two.
played it beautifully, and that alone is worth tuning in, people, just to hear that bass riff. If you only tune in tonight for 5 seconds, tune in for that bass riff, and then immediately just like go back to whatever you're doing. But um, yeah, well, I'm honored, man. It's 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 funny that you mentioned that because Darcy, who plays with me, in my touring band, has played on a lot of my recordings and stuff. When I told him that I had recorded with Pino, like he was kind of in a state of shock, and he said immediately, he was like, "Well, when your employer goes and makes an album with the best bass player in the world, it's time to level up," and like he and he wasn't being sarcastic. I mean, he just was like he just took it as inspiration, pure inspiration. And to his credit, like he went home and he woodshedded, and his playing just jumped up like a whole other level. And I turn around to them like, halfway through the tour and just be like, Darce, man, you're nailing it. Like you're holding the band together right now. You're just playing great. And it just showed because he had put the work in. And it's that same thing where you're almost intimidated, and so you want to make sure your game is as tight as it can be, and great players have that effect on people, right? They just elevate everyone else around them,
Oh,
and so
I mean, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a great bass player, but I'm a terrible teacher. That's for sure. Like I'm not good at teaching because I'm self-taught as well. And
Yeah,
I think you are
right.
as well.
I
And I
am.
think
Yeah.
that just, it doesn't make great teachers because you sort of just sit there and go, I don't know, just be lonely and depressed and fucking have an instrument in your room. You'll learn it.
Well, I wouldn't. I see. I'm starting to think that it's not about making good teachers. It's about if you can encourage someone else to find their own way into it, then that's as valuable an education as anyone can get. Sure, you could show someone this is where you put your finger, and then the next one goes here, and there's better people that can do that for sure. But you certainly have a ton of experience in making original music, in doing all this stuff that goes along with writing songs and producing records, and all of that goes into how you play the bass, how you are in a band. You know you're part of a band. It's like you're not just learning the bass line. It's like how does the bass line fit into the song? How does it fit into what everyone else is doing? It's like all of that stuff, just there's no shortcut. And to be able to share that type of wisdom with people, I think people would be lucky to kind of get an insight into that. And I don't know. I'm lucky that I just like in those early years, whether it was playing with Feist or playing with Jay Collette, like I just was surrounded by awesome musicians, in those early sort of formative years. Like she's an incredible guitar player, and just to
Mm.
be like, wow, this is like a totally different style, totally different method, self-taught, but like couldn't be more different. And so again, it's like that thing where you're almost intimidated, but you're like, oh, that's so amazing. Like I just want to get my thing elevated to the point where it can hold its own with that or with Pino or with whoever.
Yeah,
So
well,
I don't
that's, I
know.
mean, yeah, my advice is always sit in with people who are much better than you.
Yeah,
I mean, your ego will take a hit and you'll
yeah.
probably feel this big, but the challenges, like in the moment, you will rise generally.
That's
I
that's
mean,
always the best advice. Always, like I honestly, like I more and more, I'm like I want to be the weakest guy in the room in terms of playing.
yeah.
Like I always want to be the weakest guy. And for my new album, like I barely played any guitar. Like the more I focus on writing songs and trying to have a career as a songwriter, my guitar playing sort of leveled off. I mean, I still feel confident in what I'm doing, but there's other guitar players that I love playing with who would just have immediate access to do the things that I am conceptualizing and wanting to do. For them, it's just right there. They have facility and access to it at a moment's notice. And so when we set up to record for this album, I just thought, what, it doesn't make sense for me to try and do these things and sing and lead the band. Like, I'll sing and lead the band, and everyone else will just play their instruments, and it just worked out, you know, beautifully. Like, they just played the guitar almost like as if I had told them, well, this is how I play it. Like, you can, it almost sounds like my playing in a lot of places, you know. It's like I mean, that's what great players do. They kind of like are able to read the song and read the room and just elevate everything, you know. So again, I don't know. I just feel lucky that I've been surrounded by really good players for most of my working career and working life, you know.
Somebody commented, love Christine who plays with you. She's incredible. She is
She's the best.
incredible.
She's
Amazing.
the best. She's the best guitar player I've ever seen, bar none. Sorry, Blake Mills.
Yeah, I've watched, when we were learning the tunes, I watched quite a few live versions just to get a sense of how you play songs live, and yeah. Super, super impressed with her playing.
Well, dude,
all right,
we're kind of butting up against time here.
I was just about to say we should wrap this up. What was the other thing I wanted to say? No Depression. Just, God, I love playing that song. We've actually started playing it in our band. We're going to do a cover of it on the next tour. So
yeah. Oh, man, I really appreciate it. And I can't tell you, I really enjoyed doing this session. I mean, you guys just showed up prepared, man. Now we've done a bunch of them. I got to tell you, no one's come as ready as you guys. You guys brought your A game.
We put the punk in punctual.
And then some. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me on this on your show, the Not So Late show. I love it.
Thank you for coming on. Everybody, check out. All right, so this is what's going to happen. We're going to stop. Then everybody watching this needs to go over to the YouTube premiere of Bahamas Live to Tape episode 2. Link is in our bio. The link is probably in Bahamas' bio if Robbie's done his job. So
that's right.
From this, tune out, go there, watch that. The other thing, album number 6, The Iron Sheik, is going to be a Teskey Brothers Bahamas collaboration. It's going to be awesome.
Iron Sheik, brother. Right on. Thank you so much, everyone, and thanks for having me on. Cheers.
Thanks, mate. See you later.
Bye. See ya.
Oh, boy. What a legend that Bahamas is. Okay, so if you're watching this, like I said, go tune in to the premiere. It's on YouTube. It's in our link. This is going to finish. Go over there, watch that. I'll be there. Liam will be there. We'll be answering questions while you're watching. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in.